how can we talk to your everyday layman about this and to express and communicate these sort of ideas and these concepts without trying to look like a nut or losing their interest within the first 15 seconds?
Number one, don't worry about whether you look like a nut. Number two, they get it. You have to trust, if what we're saying is true, there will be a percentage of people who get it. There will be a large percentage who don't. Not everybody got up out of the cave in the Valley of Africa and marched over to the next valley. And out of that group, not everybody went to the next, and went to the next, and went to the next. There was always a small subset of any existing culture or civilization that is willing to go into the next frontier or is drawn by that. Now, maybe it's genetic, I don't know. We can't get this idea that we're going to have marches on Washington for space with millions of people. No, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And you don't need millions of people. You only needed, maybe not the best example, you only needed one Christopher Columbus. You only needed one Isabella to say, go for it. You know, you only needed one Henry Hudson. You know, you didn't need all of the people in Europe to rise up and say, let's go check this out. Now, what you did need is, on the pragmatic side, for those people to buy something or support something, or, you know, they needed to have a product eventually coming from that. And, you know, we don't know what that's going to be yet. See, this is also part of it. I was doing my talk yesterday here at the Space Access Conference. One of the first questions I asked the audience of rocket builders and entrepreneurs was, did you get into this field how many of you got into this field based on a sound, rational business decision? I had two guys who were instantly identified as lying, and everybody else, no one raised their hand. We are not in this because it's a rational decision. We are in this because we are called to do it for some reason that goes beyond our own personal understanding. I do believe if we do it right and we pay attention to the technologies, the sciences, the laws of physics, kind of important, and we do it that way, we will get there and there will be wealth produced. But right now, our field, our movement is belief-based. There's just no other way around it. We do this because we believe human beings. We have no evidence. All we have is the ability to logically deduce or to emotionally feel that this is what we should do. That's it. I'm not able to walk into space and come back and lay a pot of gold on the table right now. Can't do it. However, I believe it's possible, and I believe that will happen, along with innumerable and immeasurable amounts of other kinds of wealth if we go. Therefore, the creation of something like Earthlight was necessary, I believed, because there needs to be a home for the acknowledgement of that as our driver. Because things will go bad. Somebody will die. A rocket will fall from the sky. We need to be able to articulate, which is what Earthlight is going to spend its time doing, articulating and supporting with rational engineering and understanding why we're going. So that now, when that rocket falls down out of the sky, a reporter comes in and instead of going, this guy was some rich boy in his toy and a space tourist and that's trivial and doesn't have anything to do with our culture, there'll be another voice that answers, this is central to our culture. What that person was doing was important, and we have to get up off the ground and go do it again and do it harder and better. That needs to be codified. That needs to have an organized voice. That's what we're trying to do. This is a reality. That's all we're doing with Earthlight, is recognizing a reality. The term Earthlight, I should tell you about that. The term Earthlight comes from a conversation I had with the astronaut John Young at a Return to the Moon conference in Las Vegas several years ago. John was talking about the fact that when the astronauts were on the moon, or orbiting the moon, when the sun was down and the Earth was up, there was a blue-green glow that was so bright they could read newspapers by it. But the cameras at the time, because of the issues of contrast, etc., couldn't pick that up. They called it Earthshine or Earthlight, depending on the astronaut. I liked it. It was a nice story. When I, years later, very recently, was looking at the idea of what to call this organization, I decided I didn't want to have a name that was too space techy. I want a name that expresses more than that, that would reach beyond our space techno field. And I thought of that term, and I was literally looking up at the moon, and it occurred to me that the light bouncing off of the Earth onto those astronauts would be a unique spectrum generated uniquely by a G-class star like ours, bouncing off of an oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen world. It would be Earthlight. And so the idea came about, well, let's shine that light. I got a little light, I'm going to make it shine. But I mean, that's really where it came from. So, I mean, this all does sound, the whole Earthlight concept sounds very high end, but really what we're about is something that's very down to earth, and that is, why am I here? What am I to do? Is it about how big a house I have, how many Mercedes, how many times my name shows up in tweets, whatever? It's not. I have a bigger purpose. My job is to create a future that my children can live into, that my hopes and aspirations can live into, that is going to be better than what we have now. And you and I know, because we're space people, what that is. We just want to create a cultural technology that allows us to communicate that to the rest of the world.
So what can we do now? What is the most important thing that we can do right now in order to make this happen?
Give Earthlight money.
Seriously?
Seriously. That would help. Yeah, we could use some funding. The Earthlight model is designed around an organization I worked in called Fines many years ago, where a very rich person put $25 million into an endowment. And I was to take a percentage of the interest of that $25 million and use it to fund space projects that helped advance our cause. At the time, I was able to underwrite return to the moon conferences, laser light studies, helium-3 studies, solar sails with Carnegie Mellon University. The helium-3 was University of Wisconsin, on and on and on. And we were able to do a lot of good and move the ball ahead quite a bit. New Earth object studies, asteroid processing studies, Dr. John Lewis and others. And we were able to do a lot of good with a very little bit of money, $1 million. And that eventually led to the project that led to us taking over the Mir space station. It occurred to me that model would be a good structural anchor or foundation for this new organization. So the way that the Earthlight project, let's call it, is made up is that there's the Earthlight Foundation, which is a 501c3 charitable organization. That is where the endowment will be housed. Let me start again. The makeup of the Earthlight project, let's call it, consists of two elements. The Earthlight Foundation is the financial organization. It's also where the endowment that we're going to grow will be housed. We are, of course, looking for large donors, and that would be very important to us to be able to get that endowment to a certain level. We have a formula for the thresholds at which we will start giving out money. And it's very small, very, very small. If we hit the first $250,000, the first year after that, we'll be able to give out our first grant of $5,000 and be able to reinvest some of that money and keep the endowment growing. We have a formula wherein anybody who gives any money to the Earthlight Foundation or Institute, part of that money will be tithed and taken into the endowment. So if you give us $100, I think $5 of that 100 will immediately go into the endowment if it's allocated to another project, that kind of thing. We're going to have a very low overhead, very low management costs. And then the Earthlight Institute is the front end. Now, frankly, one of the reasons we created the Earthlight Institute was I didn't want, given the technical style of our movement and needing to have the credibility of our own movement, I did not want to introduce an organization into our field that both had Earthlight and could be acronymed as ELF at the same time. So we came up with Earthlight Institute. Now, when we have 25 or 100 or 500 million in the endowment, I don't fracking care what you call us. Then it's fine. You can call us ELF, you can call us your mother's underwear, we don't care at that point. But we're going to start with the Earthlight Institute, which will be the DBA. We are, right now, we are beginning our operations out of Houston. We've had some very wonderful support in our first days by Art Dula and the Heinlein Foundation as far as helping us with our legal paperwork a little bit. And we had our first contribution in the last few days from Charlie Schaefer and the Celestis Foundation. So we're very thrilled about that. We definitely could use contributions of financial contributions, and we're looking for people who want to get involved. One very interesting area to get involved with the Earthlight Institute, for students especially, is the Encyclopedia Galactica. Now, the Encyclopedia Galactica is going to be announced July 20th of this year, and it's basically going to be a Wikipedia structure that is either going to be a very intense 6-month project or 6,000 years from now, people will still be looking at it. It's supposed to be an organically growing database of all human knowledge involving space, with a focus on space development. So we're hoping that student groups, universities, high schools, will get involved and work on elements of the Encyclopedia Galactica. The Encyclopedia Galactica is going to be designed in such a way that a person can come in and work with one of the encyclopedia librarians and take on some element of interest to them and start fleshing that out, just like like a Wikipedia does. And other people will cross-check and cross-reference things. So if you're into laser thrusting or robotics or something, you can come in there and start adding to the knowledge base. And like a tree, organically, it can grow in any direction. You could go off into your favorite unknown robotic designer from 1937, and start filling that out. Or you could go into, here's the plans for NASA's robotic mission to Mars, and start filling that out. Eventually, like a tree, organically, this will grow and eventually start to fill in. So we have a very strong open invitation for people to get involved there. Visual artists, architects, designers, we would love to get people like that involved. I would like to get architects and other people like that involved. I want to see what a house in 1/6 gravity would look like. I want to see what a skyscraper would look like on the moon, on Mars. What does a free space habitat or colony for 20 people look like? I've seen ones for 1,000, 10,000. What does one for 20 or 100 people look like? There's so many neat questions that people totally outside of the space field can get involved with. I recently saw a documentary about an architect from Sweden who was reinventing the bridge, a New York City bridge, as a condominium. How brilliant is that? Let's think about that real estate. He's going to put condominiums in the bridge, so you've got a view down the river, with shops and a mall, and then passenger traffic above or below that. That's the kind of minds we want looking at space. And right now they're not invited. So Earthlight is going to definitely be reaching out to people. We want to capture the imaginations of people who haven't become a part of this amazing chemical reaction that we're in right now, because that'll just make it grow, make it more exciting, and attract more people. So Encyclopedia Galactica is definitely a place where we could use people who want to help us expand and help get in one place the knowledge of humanity regarding the opening of space.